Many think of faith as a narrow-minded belief system of having a lack of intelligence, there being a lack of examination or pain, and having one's questions silent. Faith might evoke images of submission to external authority. Historically, the idea of faith has been used to slice cleanly between those who belong to a select group and those who do not. To fuel their own embittered agendas, fanatics harness what they call faith into hatred. Where am I? Why does the world feel like mush? Why do I have nothing to stand on? And looking back, this is perhaps the beginning, at least, of my entering widowhood. One of the first things a counselor will ask is, when did you have such a lost feeling in the past, and how did you cope? The answer is, of course, I didn't. I survived, because I never had a solid belief that anything or anyone could help. At least that was true at the age of 12. As a child, my mother and I once attended a service, perhaps two, at the Washington Cathedral when we were stationed in Washington, D.C. I thought it was lovely. Holy, holy, holy. I fell in love with the 23rd Psalm. Although we never attended church neither before or since that time, until my mother joined the Unitarian Fellowship in Monterey, I assumed, as any white mainstream Protestant, that this is the way the world, at least my cultural world, which was dominant at the time, operated. It was quite lovely and assumed a belief in a benevolent God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, all here to help me and everybody else in the world. Remember, I was around 9 or 10 and had never gone to church regularly. Soon after that experience, my parents were divorced and I lost that secure world, and so did my mother, who became a Unitarian. Faith did not exist for me. Faith in anything that could possibly be of any help, that is. There was no way I knew that rose was going to open. Time passed and I eventually married, had children, went to college, and started a career. Life began to look like that old WASP model. Then I got older, kids grew up, and my husband died, and COVID happened. During COVID, I joined the Sangha at UUCB online, of course, and was introduced to Buddhism. I continue to be a part and receive wisdom from the books we read and discussion of how we can or cannot apply what we learn to our everyday lives. Susan Selberg is a well-known Buddhist teacher and author on loving kindness meditation. She has written many books, and in an interview, when asked which of her books was her favorite, she responded with, "Faith, trusting your own deepest self." Spoiler alert, that is the crux of this sermon. More about her and the book later. As many of you are aware, one of my past careers was as a hospice chaplain. Most of my patients identified as Protestant, although very few actually attended any particular church outside of weddings and funerals, and I'm pretty sure did not have a clue what the Trinity was about. Those who were attached to a specific church and for whom their faith was particularly important often received comfort as they approached death. I could no sooner believe that what my patient believed was real or truthful. I could no sooner believe that what my patient believed was not real or truthful than believe I could tell you what you believe or don't believe is not true. Jewish, Muslims, Hindus, as well as Buddhism's, humanists, and others can and do teach loving kindness, even though it may be by another name. One's faith, no matter by which name it may be called, can be and often is beneficial and real. 99% of the publicity we hear about religions is negative, horrifyingly so, and not necessarily true of most practitioners of that faith. I just made that up. Susan Salzberg, along with co-founders Jack Kornfield and Joseph Goldstein, established the Center for Buddhist Studies in Michigan, Massachusetts. She has written many books and extensively around the world, and along with others, has been a major force in the development of Buddhism in the West. Her story. My father, whom I adored, disappeared when I was 4, and my mother and I moved in with my aunt and uncle. One night, when I was 9 years old, my mother and I were home alone. She had recently undergone surgery and seemed to be recovering well. In celebration of her return, I was wearing my ballerina Halloween costume. We were sitting close together on the couch, watching my mother's favorite singer, Nat King Cole, on television. Susan's mother then began to bleed and bleed and bleed. The ambulance came, and that was the last time Susan ever was to see her mother. Life did not improve much after that, and Susan learned that nothing good was ever going to happen because she did not deserve it. She describes an old Peanuts cartoon in which Lucy has a booth with the "Doctor is in" sign, and Lucy explains to Charlie Brown, "The trouble with you is that you're you." When she first went to college, Susan was not sure about where her interest would lay. She saw a course in Buddhist studies, philosophy, and thought that might be interesting. She learned about meditation, and from then on, she was drawn to Buddhism and mindful meditation. In the beginning, all was great, and she experienced the bright star phase, in which it seems as if all problems are solvable and life is good, a phase similar to the pink cloud phase in the 12-step programs. This, of course, did not last. Through the ups and downs, she eventually developed a belief in herself and a belief in the basic goodness of others. I believe that it helped her through a deep loss, what I call the wall of experiencing the death of a loved one. I have often found it problematic that people teach things I could not believe to be true. To have such a belief requires faith in what is being taught. I often envied the kind of faith that some people seem to have. It's not just the various beliefs of different religions, it was also the WASP culture that it is better to ignore or bury what is unpleasant. A good example of this is in the 1939 movie Dark Victory with Bette Davis. A young socialite experiences dizziness and headaches. She sees a doctor who examines her and concludes that she has a terminal brain tumor, so he does not tell her, because that, of course, would only make the situation worse. He does tell people closest to her. The situation does get worse. The doctor and the patient fall in love. She goes blind, another condition the doctor did not tell her would happen. She eventually figures it out and dies happy. All scenes take place with the doctor as well as Bette Davis smoking in and out of the doctor's office. Of course, this is an exaggeration, the plot that is, but it truly demonstrates a culture of denial, that not facing the truth is the best way to cope with any situation, especially unpleasant ones. I have come, through studying Buddhism, to respect the truth, no matter how ugly, unpleasant, or painful. Because of this respect for truth, I am able to have faith in who I am. When I have terrible thoughts about myself, I examine the thought and realize that it is just not true. This is a slight exaggeration. What I'm about to say is a slight exaggeration. When I have terrible thoughts about myself, I realize that it's not true. I am not a terrible, incompetent, senile old lady. Well, except for the old lady part. That's true. It's just not a bad thing. Without believing in something that makes no sense to me, I can and do still have faith. Faith in myself, my ability to face what is before me. And I can experience joy and have fun. Holding a vision of who we truly are, says Susan, we can emerge from whatever suffering we encounter, not broken and embittered, but ever replenishing wellspring of unwavering faith. We do not have to reject beliefs in dogma, but for many of us, we need to find faith elsewhere. By examining the truth, Susan was able to understand that she did, in fact, matter. The truth that allows us to see ourselves, mistakes included. Please don't ignore or bury your own errors. This faith that I have come to believe in is based on truth, not on something that was told to me to which I cannot subscribe. Examine your errors as you examine the pain that may have been caused by others. There are many versions of what is known as the metta, one of which I will say right now. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. You repeat this as often as you need to. Then, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be happy. Repeat as often as you need to. This then can expand to your enemies or someone you just plain dislike for no good reason. You will be surprised as to how much better you will be feeling, not only about yourself, but for others as well. Remember, first, as with the oxygen mask, do this to yourself. Then it is much easier to care for others. Susan says, in my understanding whether faith is connected to a deity or not, its essence lies in trusting ourselves to discover truths on which we can rely. Hasn't there always been, possibly buried deep inside, a belief that you know more than what you present to the world and even to yourself? That part of you needs to be unburied. It probably won't surprise you that there is a group identifying as Unitarian Buddhists. It might surprise you to know that there is also a group of Christian Unitarians. While at GA last week, I attended a worship service led by this group. I was surprised at my response. God and Jesus language was spoken. Old hymns had their original words, and I was about ready to take the pledge, which, by the way, was not asked of me or anyone. Buried pain arose in me that I was ready to turn over. Buried pain arose in me that I was ready to turn over to a loving God, and I was near tears. I was surprised at my response until I realized how safe I felt in a Unitarian Universalist setting. I feel that the word love tends to be overused. It has lost its specialness. Yet love is the feeling I experience both in the Christian service and within Buddhism. Love for self, love for others, and for the world. I learned to trust my own deepest self. There is something between or other than atheism and dogma, faith versus reason. Believe in yourself. Believe in loving kindness. There is hope. There is faith, and it is in you. Okay. Now I got to find the list of what's next. There it is. Oh, music.